Welcome back to the Sunny Stampin' Studio. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make this super easy, super quick thank you card. The nice thing about this particular card is that the main focal point image actually comes from a double-sided designer paper. You can see it has the flowers on one side and then the orange plaid pattern on the other side. Now this design comes in Stampin' Up's Sweet Pea Designer Series paper stack that's in their Occasions mini catalog. So why don't we get started? First thing I did was I took a piece of the designer paper that was 3 1/4 inches by 4 1/2 inches. I then matted it onto a piece of Sahara sand cardstock that was 3 3/8 of an inch by 4 5/8 of an inch. I'm now going to take a piece of that same designer series pattern, only this time I'm using the orange side. And this is 1 1/2 by 3 1/4 inches. And I'm sticking it along the bottom edge of that DP so that it creates a border like so. So now what I'm going to do is to grab a piece of pumpkin pie cardstock, and that piece of cardstock is 3 1/2 by 4 3/4 inches. And I'm going to center and stick my Sahara sand cardstock onto that piece of pumpkin pie cardstock. So it looks just like that. Now the next thing I'm going to need is my piece of chocolate chip cardstock. And you can see here I've dry embossed this piece of cardstock with this polka dot texture, and I did that using Stampin' Up's Perfect Polka Dots Textured Impressions folder. So I simply put my cardstock in the folder and then ran it through the Big Shot. So now that I've got that done, what I want to do is to grab my designer or my matted designer series paper, and then using snail adhesive I want to center and stick this onto the chocolate chip cardstock. Just like so. So now here you can see I've got a piece of Whisper White cardstock. This is about 1/2 inch, and it doesn't matter what the length is because you're going to trim it down. So what I did was I took this greeting, and this is You Raise Kindness to an Art, and it's mounted on a clear block, and this is from Stampin' Up's Vintage Vogue stamp set. So I inked it up in chocolate chip classic ink, and then I stamped it onto this strip of cardstock. So then what I did was I took my scissors, and I'm cutting a fishtail in the end like so. I'm not trimming this end quite yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take any kind of a rounded object. So here I'm using the barrel of my chocolate chip Stampin' Right marker, and first I curled it in one direction and then I curled the tip in another direction. So now with a little bit of snail adhesive on the end, I'm going to stick this down to my cardstock, and I'm going to let the end overhang here until I decide where I want this to be. And that looks about right. It's about where I want it. So I'm going to stick that down there. And then now that I've determined the placement, I'm going to go ahead and cut that. So I'm going to trim it down. So you can see that's what it now looks like. Then for the other side, I'm just going to pick off a mini glue dot, and I'm going to stick that to the back, and that's what's going to help me hold my curl in place, just like that. So I've now got my foam mat and my paper piercing tool, and I'm going to lay this right on top of my foam mat, and I'm going to pierce it right where I want my brad to go. So you can see I'm just poking my paper piercing tool all the way through all the layers. And now I'm grabbing my pumpkin pie corduroy buttons, and I'm using this small brad in that collection. So I'm just going to put that right through and then open up the prongs on the back, like so. So now that that's done, the last thing to do is to stick this to the card. So I'm just going to put some snail adhesive. You can see just a moment ago what I was doing was cleaning the tip of my snail adhesive. Every so often as you're working, it can get gummed up here, and you can see you can end up with quite a bit of the adhesive sort of gunked up in the corner. So I just every so often take a look at that and then give it a good clean. So now that I've got my snail adhesive on the back, I'm going to center and stick this on my pumpkin pie card front. Now this chocolate chip piece is 4 1/8 by 5 5. Let me just think. It's 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So I just have it 1/8 of an inch smaller all around. And I'm sticking it onto my pumpkin pie card front, or my card, which was created out of a 4 1/4 by 11 inch piece of cardstock, folded in half to create a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card. And there you have it, our card is done. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's project, and I look forward to stamping with you again.